What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fight Dialogue. My name is Tim. This is live chat number 9. Ask me anything. And we're going to have some fun today. It's been a while since I did a live chat, since January, I think. End of January, maybe beginning of February. February snuck up on me. It was a short freaking month, very short month. And I was planning on doing a live chat then, but didn't get around to it. So here we are. It is March 10th, 1 week away from St. Patrick's Day. So happy early St. Patrick's Day for those that celebrate it. What a crazy ass weekend. Guys, if you're in the chat, let me know if everything's going good, if everything audio-wise, visually is working. And then we can get started here. We're going to talk about the happenings of the weekend of the pay-per-view, UFC 259. And then we'll get to your questions after that. All good? Excellent. Thank you very much, Yusuf and Thomas. All right. So, UFC 259 pay-per-view. I'm going to pull that up right now. I'm not going to go over the whole thing, kind of just going to focus on some highlights and some takeaways from that. The prelims were fucking amazing. They were really good. I think it was the first 5 or 6 fights were all finishes. That's crazy. Let me go to events. Let me go to past events. Yes, UFC 259. So, my takeaways from the prelims, first of all, that fight between Olberg and Nchukwu, I think his name is pronounced. Holy crap, that was a crazy 2-round war. Really enjoyed watching that. Absolutely zero defense whatsoever. It was like watching a Rocky movie. And the other takeaway, Sean Brady. I said it before, and I'll say it again after the fact. That guy is going to be a staple of the welterweight division. He is a force to be reckoned with at welterweight. He submits Jake Matthews in the 3rd round via arm triangle and pretty much won the whole fight pretty decisively. Jake Matthews is another guy who has been in the UFC for a while. He has way more UFC experience than Sean Brady. And, this was definitely going to be Sean Brady's toughest test to date. And Brady made it look easy. Other than one point in the 1st round where I think Jake Matthews rocked him a little bit. He caught him as he threw a kick and kind of knocked him down, caught the kick, knocked him down at the same time. Other than that moment, it was all Sean Brady. And he trains down in Philadelphia, kind of close to my neck of the woods, with Daniel Gracie and Paul Felder. And this guy's pressure game from the top on the ground is just out of this world, man. You do not want this guy on top of you. He is built like a shit brick house. And I think that's Paul Felder's nickname that he's trying to push for. Wants his name to be Sean Brickhouse Brady. And I second that. I like that nickname. Francesco, what's up, man? Good to see you. So, the main card was also excellent. And also, in many ways, very surprising how it went down. I did not think that Thiago Santos versus Alexander Rakic was going to be as boring as it was. I expected both men to take a little bit more chances. Excuse me. And, it ended up being a pretty boring fight. And even though Santos outlanded Rakic technically, in the total strike counts, Rakic came away with the unanimous decision, which I agree with. He was pressuring Santos more and initiating some clinching, so it's a little bit hard to score fights like that, but yes. And Islam Makhachev got the submission win over Drew Dober, round 3. Makhachev, I spoke about it on the last podcast with Al. I wasn't that, or I haven't been that impressed with Makachev throughout his UFC career. Like he's had some good wins, but there was never a moment where I was like, "Oh my God, this guy is the next thing." Um, I'm still not quite saying that yet, but this win over Drew Dober was impressive. Drew Dober is a tough SOB. He's hard to submit. He's hard to take down. And he's hard to hang with on the feet, man. He's a Muay Thai specialist. He's an absolute killer. So this was a very impressive win for Makhachev, in my opinion. And a lot of people are calling for him to fight Charles Oliveira. And I love that fight, man. That is like, I guess you could call it the poor man's version of Khabib versus Tony. But still, Oliveira is on a tear. I'd like to see him fight Makhachev. And if he can beat Makhachev, I truly believe that's something that could coax Mr. Nurmagomedov out of retirement. Getting some questions filling up here. I'll answer the questions that have to do with what we're talking about, and then all the random questions I'll save for the end. Let's see. Yeah, I'll get to the Peter Yan thing in just a second. So yeah, Makhachev versus Oliveira is what I want to see. And if you haven't checked it out yet, please go check out my recent video, How Good is Charles Oliveira's Grappling? I got some stuff in there that you might not have expected. Obviously, his grappling is good, but I went over some points in there that a Mr. Makhachev might be able to take advantage of if they ever fought. So, yeah, that's up now. So Peter Yan versus Aljamain Sterling. What an excellent fight, first of all. What an excellent fight. The first round, we saw Aljamain Sterling pushing the pace a lot. You know, he was throwing the jab a lot. He was pressuring Yan up against the fence, and Yan was kind of just covering up. And I don't know if he couldn't find his range yet or what was going on, but that aggressiveness of Aljamain Sterling was doing wonders for him in the beginning of that first round. But the first round was interesting because even though Yan was being pressured and was on the back foot most of the time, he had some moments in that first round. I think he scored a knockdown against Aljamain, and he punched him in the face and dropped him to a knee, I believe. And also, Aljamain started doing what would become a trend for him throughout the fight. He was faking the takedown and then going into a spinning elbow, John Jones style, right? And I apologize if you hear some noise back there. My dogs are making noise. But he was going for that spinning elbow, and he was failing on it 9 times out of 10. And every time he would do it, Aljamain would turn his back briefly and then get caught in like this suplex position where Yan was on his back with a body lock. And Yan was able to take him down in that first round. I think he slammed him right on his head in that first round. I only watched the fight once. That might have been the second round, but no, I think it was the first round. Anyways, Yan had his moments. So what was more significant? You know, the aggressiveness and the more significant strikes landed in the first round by Aljamain, or the knockdown and the takedown of Yan? That one was hard to score for me. The second round, Yan started to find his range more. He started to land more. It was a lot closer. I know some people that still scored it for Aljamain. I know some people that scored it for Yan. I think Aljamain was able to get one takedown in that second round, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah. And Francesco Genovese is saying, I think Yan knew Sterling had a speed advantage and was dangerous on the feet, so he waited for his moment as Sterling fatigued. In fact, he was taking over before that shenanigan happened. Yeah, and I was just getting to that. Aljamain Sterling definitely had the speed advantage in the first few rounds. And like you said, once he started to tire out, Yan was able to take over. And in that third and that fourth round, especially, you could see the way the fight was trending. Aljamain was losing steam very rapidly, very rapidly. He was going to the well way too much with that fake takedown, spinning elbow. He was going for these lazy, lazy takedowns where he was shooting from way out far, not really committing to it. I don't know if he was hurt. I don't know what the deal was. But he was definitely tired, if nothing else. And Jan was landing a lot of good shots, man. And there was several moments where Jan had his back and slammed him to the ground. And he didn't really want to go to the ground with Sterling because no matter how tired Aljo is, he's still dangerous off his back, right? So Jan was smart not to go to the ground with him. And then, of course, in the fourth round, we had that illegal knee. I think Aljamain went for a lazy takedown again, failed miserably, dropped down to a knee, and then we had this confusion where Jan is trying to communicate with his corner, and he decides to knee Aljamain in the face when he has both knees down. Now, disclaimer, I don't think it was anything malicious. I don't think Jan was like, yeah, both knees are down, let's knee him. I think there was some kind of miscommunication with his corner, and he couldn't see where Aljamain's knees were properly because of the angle. He was kind of up above Aljamain. I get it. But in terms of the aftermath of people saying Aljamain was faking it, that, he's a fake champion, this and that he was actually fine, that disappoints me. That disappoints me greatly. Because think of any other sport, guys. Think of any other sport in the world, whether it be hockey, soccer, football, baseball. If a foul occurs and your team is on the wrong end of that foul, whether or not it hurt the guy, whether or not it was intentional, you're going to expect that foul to be scored as a foul, okay? And the consequences to follow suit from that foul. There is I don't think any doubt in anybody's mind that knee was illegal. Okay? We can debate all day on why Jan decided to do it, but it's irrelevant in the end. The knee was illegal, okay? And it wasn't a light knee, okay? It was harder than the knee John Jones landed on Anthony Smith. And it was well within Anthony Smith's right to say, no, I'm done. Give me that belt, He didn't do that, and he ended up, just taking more damage throughout the fight and of course, lost. I don't think anybody wants to win that way. I don't think anybody wants to become the champion via disqualification. And Aljamain said something to the effect of, I thought it was going to be ruled a no contest, and then we would just have an immediate rematch. Which, I knew right away that it was going to be a disqualification. But, in the heat of the moment, after you've just been kneed in the head, I can understand, like, oh, yeah, maybe we could just have a redo and it'll all be fine. So I get where he's coming from in that moment. But let's just assume he was acting. Let's just assume he was. Does it really change anything? You know what I mean? Does it really change anything? I don't believe it does, because the knee was hard. It was a hard knee. If that knee took place from a standing position, that would have been the first thing that they showed in the instant replay between rounds. You'd have Joe Rogan, look at this knee. This is so, it's such a great knee. It was a good hard knee. Did it knock him out? No. Did it have him hurt as badly as it seemed? Maybe, maybe not. It's irrelevant, guys. It doesn't matter. It was an illegal knee. Okay? And in a sport where your brain is getting rattled around in your head and you're suffering bodily injury, I think it's well within a fighter's right to say, no, I don't want to continue anymore after being fouled. So that's my thoughts on that. I do think Peter Yan would have won the fight if it continued, regardless of whether the illegal knee happened or not. I think he would have won. The fight was competitive, though. It was competitive. Aljamain did a lot of good things in that fight. He did a lot of things right, especially in the beginning of the fight. I think he's going to come back and really take a look at his energy management and efficiency. And I think Yan is going to do much of the same. And we're going to see what happens. I like both guys. I'm not biased towards either party. I just want to see a good fight, and I want to see the best man win. It's unfortunate that Aljamain became champion via disqualification, but rules are rules. So we'll see what happens in the rematch. And yeah. Francesco Genovese says, I thought Yan was moments away to hurt him and finish him. Maybe taking him down and smashing him with ground and pound. Yeah, it's always a possibility. And like I said, Yan was starting to run away with it as Aljo's energy depleted. Vincente the GOAT. The belt looks so good on Aljo. Yeah, I mean, he put in the work to be champion. He definitely put in the work to be champion. He fought and finished a lot of the contenders coming up. He had a good showing for some parts of that fight, and he showed up to fight. So we'll see if he's able to defend the title in the rematch. So yeah, that was my thoughts on that. Amanda Nunes versus Megan Anderson. Wow. I guessed that Amanda Nunes was going to win in the second round via some type of finish. I didn't think it would happen 2 minutes into the first round, though. I thought Megan Anderson honestly had a little bit more than that. She just got steamrolled. She got ran over. And it stemmed from those overhand rights. Megan Anderson is the taller girl. She should have had Amanda Nunes at the end of her jab. She should have been taking the center of the octagon. And that's just me being Monday morning quarterback or Wednesday morning. It's easier said than done against the GOAT. But Anderson had a massive, massive reach advantage and height advantage in that fight. And she didn't utilize it. And she let Amanda Nunes come on the inside where she was able to land some really hard overhand rights. And that's what was the catalyst for the entire finish, because you could see it in Megan's eyes that she was hurt. As soon as those overhands started landing, she did not want to be in there anymore. She was put down, and then her back was taken, and she got triangle armbarred from the back, which is not something you see often in MMA. You don't see that triangle from the back position too often. It's a very common position in jiu-jitsu nowadays. And it doesn't really do a good job of choking that triangle from the back, at least not from the angle she had it. We saw an inverted triangle from the back, I guess you could call it, in the early days of Bellator. And it was Jorge Masvidal who was on the receiving end of that. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, go look it up. It's one of the best submission highlights of Bellator's history. But yeah, it was a different angle. The triangle was more for control of the upper body than anything else, and Amanda used it to get the armbar finish. It's very nice. And as far as the featherweight division goes, man, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen next. Some people are saying that they're going to get rid of it. Megan Anderson is a free agent now, and most people think that she won't be fighting in the UFC anymore. It might have even been made official that she's not in the UFC anymore. And many people think that is the beginning of the end for the featherweight division. And that may be so. But With the debut of Clarissa Shields and the dominance of the young Kayla Harrison in PFL, I think the UFC might be holding out to give it one last try with those women. And I was talking to Eric about this on the Discord yesterday. If you haven't joined the Discord, definitely do that. Have a lot of fun conversations on there. Link in the description. But Kayla Harrison is a star over in PFL, and the PFL did not take place at all in 2020, but Invicta did, and PFL allows their fighters to go fight in other organizations if nothing's going on, which Kayla Harrison took advantage of, and she absolutely destroyed some poor girl in Invicta. And Kayla is still pretty green. I think her record is like 8-0, 7-0. She's still got a lot to learn. So to put her in there against Amanda Nunes would not benefit anybody but Nunes. But I think Kayla Harrison can possibly save the featherweight division, but she needs at least another year. Let's see how this season of PFL goes, and if she becomes the champion again, I think the UFC will be looking to sign her. And I don't think the UFC will really do anything with featherweight for that entire time. They may not officially denounce it, but I don't think we're going to see any featherweight title fights being put in anytime soon after that. James Pappas, was that Toby Amada? I'm not sure who submitted Jorge Masvidal back then. That's a good question. I got to look that up. Yusuf says, Nunes versus Shevchenko 2. Nunes has put on some size. Can Shevchenko still beat her? No, I don't think so. I don't think Shevchenko will ever beat her. That's just me. I know their fights were very close. I know that the second fight, many people thought that Shevchenko won. I'd have to go back and watch it to really give another opinion about that. But, excuse me. That fight just doesn't interest me. You want to see the same girls fight for a third time when one of them won the first two fights? Like, yeah, I can see some intrigue there, but there's got to be something else. And I know that both of the featherweight division and the flyweight division are kind of stagnant right now. So the logic behind that is why not? Why not? Who else is waiting to fight those two women that is really going to be more intriguing? And I get it. But I don't know, man. Just give these contenders a little bit more time to build themselves up. That's all I'm saying. All right, we'll get to the Adesanya fight in a second. Francesco says, the fact is you cannot be so foolish acting tough and saying you want to continue after taking a hard knee to the temple. After taking that amount of damage, the fight is compromised. Yes, I agree. Your performance is compromised. You are already tired. You're being picked apart. So, yeah. Aljamain was in the right, as I mentioned before. All right, so moving on to the main event, Jan Blachowicz versus Israel Adesanya. The big story behind this is that Jan was the much bigger man and that Adesanya was the smaller man. And at the weigh-ins, they didn't look too far apart in terms of size. Obviously, Adesanya was taller. Blachowicz was a bit huskier. And I don't think size was as big of a factor in the striking department. Now, once it gets to the ground, it's a little bit different depending on the position. But in the striking department, I don't think size made too much of a difference. Maybe it made a difference in terms of reach. What was the reach of these guys? Let's see if the UFC's horrible website will even tell me. Blah, 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 blah. No, it's not going to show me. It's just showing me the stats for the fight. But we can go over that as well. So looking at that, The fight as a whole, Jan scored 184 strikes total to Adesanya's 99. Jan got 107 significant strikes, and Adesanya scored 78 significant strikes. Jan had 3 takedowns. Adesanya had 0. The big debate is those first 3 rounds, right? Because there was some weird scoring discrepancy. One of the judges gave somebody a 10-8 round, I think. Listen, anybody that looks at those first 3 rounds and says, yeah, those were really easy to score. I picked fighter A. I picked fighter B. I don't know what you were looking at, because I wouldn't mind if you said, I think this person edged it, or I think that person edged it. But if you think any one of those guys ran away with any one of those 3 rounds, come on, because those rounds were really close. The people that were making arguments for Jan, they were saying Jan was pushing the pace. He was backing Adesanya up against the fence, and he was landing more strikes. The counter argument to that would be just that. Adesanya is a counter striker, okay? Excuse me. I'm like burping like crazy. Adesanya is a counter striker. Being a counter striker is like being a guard player, okay, on the ground. You are losing the fight right up until the point that you win, right up until the point that you land that counter shot finally and you knock the guy out. That is, in a nutshell, what it is like to be a counter striker, okay? Adesanya is famously a counter striker. And I would say in rebuttal that, of course, he's going to be losing against a guy who's being more aggressive with their footwork, aggressive with their punches. Sure. Also, a lot of the shots that Jan was landing were good, but Adesanya was also rolling with a lot of them, right? He was rolling with a lot of the punches. Do I think Adesanya won those first 3 rounds? I don't know. I got to go back and watch them. But I remember as I was watching them, and granted, I was watching it without the commentary because we were doing it on the Discord. I was talking to the people on the Discord. I wasn't listening to the commentary at all. But from what I heard, the commentary was horrible. I just made a video about MMA commentary, and I put Joe Rogan at S tier. But these past couple... This past year, actually, Joe Rogan's commentary has been lackluster. And so is Daniel Cormier's, because it's a bit too biased. And from what I heard, it was very biased towards Adesanya. I'm getting off track here. But listen, Adesanya was landing counter shots, and he was throwing a lot of fakes and feints that Jan was biting on. He was taking the bait on those feints. Unfortunately, Adesanya was unable to really make anything happen from those feints. And again, Jan was landing more shots. So I would not be upset if all 3 of those rounds were scored for Jan. I started to get worried for Adesanya because the strike that was worrying me the most that Jan was throwing was that counter left hook. The counter left hook is something that Adesanya has had a problem with throughout his career. And by problem, I don't want to, I'm not saying that's his kryptonite. But he did get knocked out in kickboxing from a left hook. And he gets hit consistently with left hooks in pretty much every fight in the UFC. And I think Gastelum rocked him with a couple left hooks, counter left hooks. He just could not get out of the way of it. And he was able to roll with it a little bit against Jan, but that left hook started to land more and more heavily. And I think there was 2 or 3 big left hooks that he landed that even Firas Zahabi, I was listening to his live stream, Firas Zahabi said he thinks that Adesanya actually got really badly hurt from one of them, and that's why he didn't try to stop the takedown too much. He was content to kind of lay and pray from the bottom, if you will, until the round ended. And I don't know if he was really that hurt, but maybe he did realize that he was getting outclassed a little bit, or starting to lose in the stand-up. But I don't know, man. Adesanya has a really do-or-die mentality. When he fought Gastelum, he was ready to die on that octagon, or so he said. But based on his actions and the amount of damage he took, I would say that's at least a little bit accurate. So I don't know if he would really do that against Jan as like a face-saving tactic, so that you don't get knocked out and you kind of just lose a decision. I don't know. Adesanya wasn't doing much from the bottom, though. He does have good submissions off his back. He was fishing for a triangle at one point when he had full guard. I forget what round it was. Forgive me. I'm losing track of the rounds, but he was fishing for a triangle, and then he got stuck in half guard, and he wasn't doing shit from half guard. The only thing he was doing was bridging into Jan, and that is not going to work against a guy Jan's size and grappling experience. You're only going to hit that against a guy your size or smaller, or if they're being very sloppy with their balance, which of course Jan was not. So, yeah. Joe Lee says the commentary made it seem like Jan was getting pieced up. Yeah, that's what I heard. And you see that sometimes with like these very dominant champions. They hype them up a little bit. Let's get to some of these questions about that fight. Where does Jan rank in MMA striking? That's from Vincente the Goat. I would have loved to make a how good is their striking of Jan before this fight, but I was tied up. I had too much stuff to do, and I couldn't get to it. But I think Jan is improving, which is crazy because he's 38 years old. It's crazy to be improving that significantly this late in your career. But I still think that Adesanya is the better striker. But stylistically, it was a bad matchup for Adesanya. The aggression of Jan and the threat of the takedown was something that played a part. So I do think that Jan is a very good striker, but I don't know if he's better than Adesanya as a whole. Yusuf, would Jan have beaten Jones? That is a very good question. I think not. But I don't think Jones would have ran Jan over like many people thought he would have back in the day. When Jon Jones was competing in the light heavyweight division, before he fought Reyes, before he fought even Anthony Smith, if you would have said who wins, Jan or Jones? Jones, hands down. Jones probably would have finished him. Now that Jan has gotten better, though, and obviously earned the title since, I think it would be a much more competitive fight. I think it's not like I think Jones wins every time. How's my stream doing? We still good? All right. I don't think Jones wins that fight every time either. I think Jon Jones, if you match him up 10 times, Jon Jones probably wins 7 out of 10 times against Jan. But I guess we'll never know the answer to that question because Jan seems like he's going to end his career at light heavyweight, and Jones seems like he's going to end his at heavyweight. But you never know. All right. Some more questions. Joe Lee says Adesanya held the reach advantage, I believe. Yeah, I think you're right. But I think it was a lot closer than most of his fights are. I think Adesanya enjoys a very, very long reach advantage at middleweight. Whereas against Jan, it was probably less significant of a reach advantage. And Adesanya has that style where he leans back out of the way like the Matrix and then is able to still land the counter. So maybe that's something that played a part in their fight. James Papa says Jan is basically the lineal champ at 205 in addition to undisputed. Yeah, and I would like to see Jan continue to defend against the best guys. Who those guys are, it's hard to say because 205 is weird right now, man. A lot of people are saying him versus Glover Teixeira. I like that. I don't think we should make Glover Teixeira wait any longer than he has to. He's older. He's at the end of his career. He's never going to get another title shot. And what he's done to earn this second title shot is just unprecedented at this point in his life. He's in his 40s, man. There's a very short list of guys who have legitimately earned their title shots against younger contenders in a very strong division. Randy Couture comes to mind. Dan Henderson is another one. And Glover Teixeira is making a case for that as well. So I would like to see Jan versus Glover Teixeira and give Mr. Rakic a little bit more time to build himself up, considering his last fight wasn't too impressive. Joe Lee says that 10-8 round was absolutely BS. Yeah, I don't know who the fuck scored that. That was nuts. Quan Nguyen, are you going to adjust Adesanya's grappling score? No, I don't think so. Because, and that's a good question. Usually when I see something new out of these guys, I'll go back into the how good is their grappling or how good is their striking and adjust some of their scores based on what I saw. What I saw was pretty consistent with what we've seen before from Adesanya. He did a good job of defending against ground and pound for the most part. He didn't really get hit too hard on the ground. He took some shots, but then again, he did spend a lot of time on the ground. He was attempting submissions, just like I said he would in that video. Regardless of whether he gets them or not, attempting submissions still is something that helps your case in terms of how good your grappling is. So yeah, I didn't really see anything too differently. Jan's a strong grappler, probably underrated grappling, honestly. So and like I said before, the size advantage wasn't too big of a deal from the standing side of things, but on the ground, when you have a bigger man on top of you, especially a bigger man that is a better grappler, that makes a huge difference. Like it's really demoralizing and tiresome to fight a guy that is bigger than you and a better grappler than you when they're on top of you. So yeah, no, I'm not going to adjust his score because it's pretty much where I see it. Joe Lee, those first 3 rounds were incredibly hard for me to score at home. Yeah, same here, man. Vincente the GOAT. Number 1 is Skinny. Number 2, Polish Power. Number 3, Polish Power. Number 4, Polish Power. Number 5, Polish Power. Oh, you're talking about the rounds. Yeah. And then he says Skinny could have won round 3. I really have to go back and watch it. I should really pay more attention when I'm watching these fights. I'm just having fun watching the fights. Like, I'm not really scoring it round by round. But, yeah, those scores make sense to me. Joe Lee. I already answered that one. Sorry. Samuel says, why does everyone underrate Jan Blachowicz? I think they look at, his overall stint in the UFC has not been that impressive. I mean, it was an element that they discussed leading up to this fight is that at one point Jan had four losses out of 5 fights. Like, just the fact that he wasn't cut from the UFC is astounding, Excuse me. So yeah, that probably has something to do with it. I've never underestimated Jan Blachowicz, but there have been moments where Blachowicz really surprised me. I thought the fight between him and Corey Anderson was going to be more competitive. I didn't think he was going to finish Corey Anderson like that. I wasn't putting it past him to win that fight, but I didn't think he was going to knock him out the way he did. And then when he knocked out Reyes, that was the moment where I was like, wow, okay, okay. And granted, that was the fight that made him the champion. But Reyes had a really good showing against John Jones, and a really good showing overall in his UFC stint. And Blachowicz just dominated him, just ran him over. So never underestimated the guy, but there have been moments where he surprised me. It's xyloids. Do your earrings hurt? No, my earrings do not hurt. I got gauges in my ears. But we'll get to the random questions later. Vincente the GOAT. Rogan is F tier in my opinion. Man, I can't put him at F tier. I can't. Rogan has been, and maybe I'm biased in terms of like nostalgia feelings, but Rogan taught me a lot about the sport, you know, and maybe Rogan was S tier back in the day, you know, when it was him and Goldberg, and then you just had like a couple other side dudes. Jon Anik was still coming up in the rankings of commentary. So maybe I'm thinking a couple years past. I think Rogan's commentary has gotten worse as the years progressed, but I can't put him at F tier, man. He knows his shit, and he's fun, man. He hypes up the fights. Tail of the tape, Eric. What's up? Your thoughts on a 10-8 rounds being given for ground control? I discussed on the Discord my thoughts on 10-8 rounds. I think that if you score a knockdown, similar to boxing, if you score a knockdown, that's an automatic 10-8 round. Now, if that guy who got knocked down starts to come back and basically wins the rest of the round, kind of like we saw against Wilder and Fury in their first fight, where he knocked him down, he rose up like The Undertaker, and then he went on to win the rest of the round. I think that's still a 10-8 for Wilder, or for whoever scored the knockdown, because that knockdown is the point in the fight where it is the closest to being stopped. Okay? You can win on points, you can do whatever, you can land more shots, but if you get dropped, you're about to lose. Okay? And you know, if you can survive that moment, more power to you, but the fact remains that you almost lost in that moment. Now, if we're talking about the ground, the only times where you will ever see anything like that is if somebody is caught in a deep submission, right? Or if somebody's about to be TKO'd on the ground with strikes. That I would definitely score a TK, or for the TKO side of things, I would definitely score a 10-8. For the submission side of things, we all know I'm a jiu-jitsu guy. If you see a guy almost tap to a triangle and then at the last second get out, I personally would score 10-8 for the applier of that submission. But we all know the biases of MMA at this point, and that might be a hard sell for the unified rules of MMA, giving out 10-8 rounds for almost submitting a guy. You know, I'm not gonna die upon that hill because I'm not gonna win that battle. But yeah, I don't think that 10-8 rounds should be given out like they were in this past fight, Jan versus Adesanya. But I do like that they are given out more and more often, and for certain situations, like I mentioned. Quan Nguyen, Makhachev's trips and armbar attempts were slick. What do you think about the Von Flue choke, though? Like the Von Flue choke in general, I like it. It's a good submission. It's a good counter to the guillotine from side control. The guillotine isn't really there from side control at all. And it's very difficult to get from half guard. I know some guys are very good with it, but it's difficult to get. So it's a great counter to the guillotine from half guard as well. And it's so simple. It's so simple. And you can trap the guy's arm there. Like a lot of people think like, oh, like if you feel like you're being choked, why don't you just let go of the guillotine at that point? Your arm's kind of jacked up in this awkward angle, and it's hard to get it up and over the guy's head once he decides he wants to Von Flue choke you. Not only that, if you kind of loosen up on everything, they might transition into an arm triangle from there. So you got to be careful, and just don't go for guillotines from bad spots. Jolie, how do you think Jones will fare at heavyweight? I don't know, man. Everybody's saying he's going to destroy. But given his last few fights at light heavyweight, I'm not so sure. We'll have to see. It depends on who they put him up against. If they put him up against a, mid-tier heavyweight, I think he'll thrash them. If he puts him up against Stipe, that's tough, man. That is tough. But I honestly give Stipe the slight edge in that fight. All right. Francesco says, why is Jones being such an inactive bitch? Talking shit on Twitter, but not getting his picogram ass inside the cage. I think he's got some financial shit to work out with the UFC. They're probably ironing out the details of who he's going to fight. And a lot of that is probably contingent on who wins the Stipe versus Ngannou fight. So I think we're waiting on that. And once that fight takes place, we're going to see more traction and more momentum in getting Jon Jones into heavyweight. And on the Discord right now, we have another fight pick contest that we are doing for UFC 260. There will be prizes for that I have not announced yet. But if you want to go get your picks in early, join the Discord. We had fun with the last contest. Vincente the Goat says, Figgy versus Moreno 2. I love it. Can't wait for it. Looking forward to it. Thomas, we said Piotr was a paper champ. No, I disagree. I disagree with that, and I disagree that Jan is a paper champ. Or, not Jan, Aljo. Listen, guys, it is the pinnacle of the sport to get the belt. And whether or not you have an easier time of earning that belt or not compared to another person, if you get your hands on that belt, you're fucking legit. And you're a scary fighter. Gabanath Anton Thavathas. Hope I pronounced your name right. When will you make a video about Tony Ferguson's striking and grappling? Maybe the next time he fights. He hasn't had a fight announced recently, but that is a request that I've gotten somewhat frequently. So maybe I will make a video about it in the future. I got a couple lined up. Next is Stephen Wonderboy Thompson's striking, as voted on by you guys. Then, spoiler alert, I think I'm going to do Ben Askren's striking. That is one that I've had requested a few times, and he's fighting Mr. Paul at the beginning of April. And then after that, we'll see where we're at, see what fights are being announced, and what you guys want to see. But Tony Ferguson is on the radar. Adorable Cheetah. What do you think of Islam Makhachev? Do you think he beats the top 5? Yeah, I think he can edge a lot of the top 5. Do I think he's going to finish them the way Khabib does? I don't think so. I think he needs a little bit more time to improve. Vincente the Goat. My logic for Rogan having F tier is that he has fell off massively and shows clear bias. I think he just shows up for a paycheck, and I can't blame him for that. Yeah, I don't know if it's a paycheck because, dude, he's making millions off his podcast, but I don't think he puts in the research like he used to. Like, even when I watch his podcast, the way he talks about some fighters, like contenders, like top 10 contenders, he talks about them like they're prospects, like as if it's the first time he's heard of them. It's like, dude, you're the commentary. You should be researching these guys. And he probably just doesn't have the time. He's got a lot of other things going on. He does one pay-per-view every 2 or 3 months. You know, he doesn't extensively research and watch tape on these guys like he used to. So that's probably where a lot of his bias and degradation of his commentary is coming from. Amin Nguyen. Do you think that lead elbows are underutilized in MMA? If so, what can fighters do to make them more viable? I'm not a striking expert. I do a lot of striking, especially lately. I've been working on it, but I'm by no means an expert. So don't come to me for expertise. But my opinion on the lead elbow is it is very useful. I have seen guys use it in MMA, particularly Muay Thai guys. It's a very Muay Thai-esque technique. A lot of times you see it where guys are just they have like a high guard, right? And then they just come in aggressively, and then they just smash both their elbows into the guy's face to maybe get through their guard. You know, they'll use it to break open the other guy's guard, and then once it's open, they follow it up with a swiping elbow. But, you know, you had guys like Anderson Silva that have been using lead elbows and uppercut elbows and stuff like that for ages, and it was very useful. I think it's a little bit harder for some people to use than others. I think your reach plays a factor. That's why you see lankier guys like John Jones using a lot of elbows. So, yeah, I think it's useful. I just think more people need to start using it and getting better with it. Tell the Tape says, I know it won't happen, but I'd like to see John Jones versus Alexander Volkov. Just to see how John Jones deals with size. Yeah, and that's a good point that you and I have spoken about that before, you know, saying that John Jones has had trouble with taller fighters. Gustafsson, Reyes. He's a little bit taller than Thiago Santos, but Thiago Santos is still pretty big. John Jones, for the early part of his stay at 205, he was a lot taller than most of the guys he fought. Rashad Evans, Rampage Jackson, Glover Teixeira, Shogun. He was so much bigger than Shogun. That fight should have been illegal. So yeah, he size matters, guys. When the skills are comparable, size matters big time. Okay? And if you think just because he's the GOAT that he's not going to have more trouble with a guy who's bigger and of comparable skill, then you just don't understand. Because, like I always say, skill before strength. Skill is more important than strength and size. But when both the fighter's skills are even, strength and size are the tiebreaker. Okay? What else we got? Somebody said if DC could do so well in the heavyweight division, then Jones will be fine. Yeah, those guys are slightly different styles, but I agree with that for the most part. Mr. Amin Nguyen says, how do you think a potential match between John Jones and Izzy would play out? At his last fight, Izzy has shown how susceptible he is to takedowns during head movement. How would John Jones potentially exploit that? I think just the way you said. He would wait for Israel Adesanya to lean back out of the range of those strikes. Probably wouldn't make it out unscathed because John has a much longer reach than Adesanya. So he'd probably try to move out of the way of those strikes and fail, get hit, and then probably be taken down from there. And it would not go his way, unfortunately. I think Adesanya is very skilled. I think he's a better striker overall than John Jones, but John Jones is far and beyond a better grappler and a much bigger man. So, yeah, I got Jones in that fight. Yusuf, Cody G or Figgy? Who you got? I got Figueiredo. But it would be the guy. Cody Garbrandt is definitely the most powerful person he would have fought if they did end up fighting. So that could play a factor. We might see Figueiredo get actually hurt by a strike if they fought. Amin Nguyen. I hope I'm saying your name right. I'm trying, guys. Your 3 all-time favorite MMA fighters. I don't have like favorite MMA fighters in the sense where like I'm putting their posters up on their wall and I'm buying their autographs and all this crazy stuff. I have favorite styles to watch, not so much favorite individuals. Because a lot of these guys, I mean, they're fighters, man. They do crazy stuff. They have their antics outside the octagon. Conor McGregor is one of my favorite guys to watch all time. His style is exciting. I've never, ever seen a boring Conor McGregor fight. And he hypes up the fight. It's just exciting. It's a different atmosphere when you watch a Conor McGregor fight. But his antics outside the octagon, I can't condone for the most part. And, yeah, I'm not going to say he's my favorite fighter because of that. But his style is one of my favorite to watch. Back in the Pride days, my favorite was Mirko Cro Cop. My favorite fighter, hands down. In fact, watching Mirko Cro Cop inspired me to start fighting. I joined a kickboxing class after watching Mirko Cro Cop. Excuse me. So I like that. I like Charles Oliveira. Love watching him fight. He's got a great style. Those blood and guts fighters, have a lot of fun watching that as well. So I don't have any favorite fighter, but I have favorite styles to watch. Jolie is laughing at the fact that I'm going to do Ben Askren striking. Hell yeah, man. Creative Learning New York City, like Matt Brown did to Diego Sanchez. I'm not sure what that is in response to. I didn't catch this comment while I was blabbing. Just send up a follow-up message to clarify what you're talking about there. Jesus from America. Can I date my cousin? Probably not. No, I wouldn't. Of course, the hotter your cousin is, the more and more you question that. Now, is it a cousin by blood? Then it's still going to be a no, regardless. Although there have been some U.S. presidents that married their cousins. Strange, huh? I thought this was America. Yeah, I mean, you do what you want, bro. You do what you want. But, yeah, I'm going to say no. Step cousin. Now we're talking. Muhammad Garby says, what do you think of Aljo saying he knew that Dana won't give an immediate rematch if he fought, but then saying he doesn't remember anything? I don't know what to think about that, man. I think that Aljo should just keep his mouth shut until the rematch happens. Because I feel like he's going to get himself in trouble if he keeps yapping. Quan Nguyen. I thought Islam's arm triangle looked like a Von Flue. He did it from the opposite half guard with shoulder pressure. Yeah, you can get the arm triangle from half guard. You can get it from top half guard. You can get it from top mount, and you can get it from side control on the same side as the arm that you have in the triangle. It's very rare to see it from half guard, and it does sort of become like a Von Flue choke. But yeah, you can get it. You got to have a really good strong squeeze though, which of course he does. Can Vicente Luque be champion? That's from Vincente the Goat. Yeah, I think so. I think he's got to work on his defensive striking, though. I think he's very much like a Justin Gaethje. He's like the welterweight version of Justin Gaethje right now. He's got good grappling, strong grappling, but prefers to use his striking and is a blood and guts fighter. Very exciting, but gets hit way too often. Your chin is a non-renewable resource. You will get knocked out eventually. And Luque has to watch out for that. And if he wants to be champion, he has to get hit significantly less because the welterweight champs are going to take advantage of that. Yusuf, can you knock someone out with timing alone, or do you need natural power? I did see that question from before. Thank you for adding it again. I do think that you can do it with timing alone. Look at Conor versus Jose. He caught him coming in. A lot of those strikes, man. If you catch a guy coming in, it accentuates that power because they're rushing forward. Anderson Silva versus Forrest Griffin. Knocked him out with a jab, because Forrest was rushing forward, desperately trying to land something. So that momentum and timing that reaction of your opponent plays a big part in knockouts, I think. Quan Nguyen says Islam got slept a few times by Mansoor Barnow. Barnow is really fucking good, but I don't think Khabib would have gotten swept like that. I'm not familiar with that fighter, but now I'm going to look it up to see how those fights went. All right, we're going to start wrapping these questions up soon here. I'm going to answer a few more, and then I'll get out of here. You can ask whatever the hell you want, whatever you want. I've already answered a few sillier questions, but I'll answer some more. Creative Learning says that is the elbows referring to earlier. Yeah, Matt Brown versus Diego Sanchez. Those elbows were nasty, man. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Joffrey from GM Productions says, thoughts on Izzy wanting to go to heavyweight before his fight with Jan? Depends on who he fights. There are some heavyweights that Israel Adesanya can beat. There really are. He's a skilled fighter. And I think he's trying to prove that he doesn't just need to be at middleweight in order to win, which is something that a lot of the great champions have a fascination with doing. James Pappas, Vincente Luque versus Usman would be billed as Battle of the Blockheads. Yeah, both guys got really good chins, and both guys take a lot of hits. I got Usman winning that, though. Muhammad, does Francis Ngannou have a chance beating a motivated leg kick checking Conor McGregor? Nope, not a chance. His only weaknesses are demotivation and leg kicks. All right? He will get starched against a motivated leg kick checking Conor McGregor, without a doubt. Joe Lee, precision beats power and timing beats speed. It's one of my favorite Conor McGregor quotes. Yes, and it's very similar in a way to my quote of skill before strength. Jesus from America says, what's your favorite beer? I'm sorry to disappoint you, my very American friend, but I do not drink beer. I drink liquor. And even though I do drink liquor, I don't drink it that often. But I prefer rum when I drink it. Listen, everybody has their vice, and I got way too many alcoholics in my family for that to be one of them. So my vice is actually caffeine. I drink way too much caffeine. Take my hat off. You want to see my bald ass head? Why would you do that? Why would you do that to me? That's all good. I'm just wearing this hat in honor of St. Patrick's Day, which is 1 week away right now. Wearing my Irish pea cap for my Irish friends. Vincente the Goat. Can I have your mustache? It's not for everybody, man. It's not a look that everybody can pull off. And honestly, the only reason that I even grow one is because the rest of my beard grows in very patchy. So I gotta use what I have working for me. Yusuf, can Wonder Boy beat Usman? Ooh, that's a good one. That is a good one. Yes, but I think Usman beats Wonder Boy more often than Wonder Boy beats Usman. If they fought 10 times, I have Usman winning 8 out of 10 times. Maybe even 7. Is it possible for Wonder Boy to knock him out? Yeah, definitely. But Usman has more tools to win. Joe Lee, you forgot the karate stance. When were we talking about stances? Karate stance is great, man. I love karate stance. It's not something I use that often, but it's a very good stance. I think karate is a good art for fighting multiple opponents. Actually, I'm gonna make a tier list of things that are art forms that are good to use against multiple opponents. Now, granted, I haven't pressure tested any of them, so it's all going to be just speculation. Disclaimer on that one. But I think karate would be good because it's very in and out, it's very movement and footwork based. And if you're fighting multiple opponents, you have to line them up so that you can fight one at a time. You're not going to win if you're fighting both of them in close quarters at the same time. You got to situate yourself so that you can make an escape or fight them one at a time. And karate is one of those arts that's very fast, it's very in and out, and the footwork's very important. So I think that's actually a good one for that. I lost my spot. Here we are. Will Conor ever make it back to former glory? Former glory as in champ? No. Former glory as in lightweight champ? Maybe. But I think Conor McGregor is just a little bit past his prime. Just a little bit. I think he's going to win many more fights before his career is over against high-level guys. But I think he's a little bit past his prime. I don't know if he's ever going to be the Conor McGregor that we remember from the 2015, a few years past that, Conor. I think that Conor is long gone. Joe Lee says, fix your Discord link in the description. I'm trying to join. Oh, no. I must have used an old one. I will definitely fix that. Tale of the tape. Conor's biggest weaknesses are whiskey and women. Yeah, and it's his own whiskey. That's an issue. That's why I don't drink that much. Yusuf, Wiley versus Rose next month. Who you got? Oh my God, I love that fight. I've been waiting for that one, man. We need to see what Wiley Zhang can do on the ground. And I think that Rose is going to be the one to answer that question. I made a video over a year ago about how good Rose is on the ground, and I think she's actually quite good. She's a good grappler. And yeah, if Rose can get her to the ground, it will be interesting. I think Wiley is a faster and better striker overall. Rose does have the reach advantage and the size advantage overall. But Wiley is so fast, man. So, yeah, I don't know. That's going to be an awesome fight, though. Can't wait. Couple more. Mr. Nguyen says, what would be the ideal number of BJJ sessions per week that you would recommend for an average Joe? Well, my good sir, you are looking at an average Joe that goes to jiu-jitsu 3 times a week, if I'm lucky. Between my day job and my family, my 2 kids, and my YouTube channel, doesn't leave a whole lot of time to do anything else. So I go about 3 times a week. hour-and-a-half sessions to jiu-jitsu. The ideal amount per week for me would be every other day. So that would be 4. So you go, you take a day to rest, then you go, and then you take a day to rest, and then you go, so on and so forth. So about 4. I would like to go more than 3. But then there have been times where I've gone 5 times a week, 6 times a week, and those are the times that I get injured, or I'm just drained the rest of the week, and I can't keep up with my average Joe lifestyle. So, yeah, that's my answer for that. Guys, a couple more questions. If you haven't liked the video, make sure you like and, like that video. Subscribe, Give me something to like here. Joe Lee says, I was talking about motivated leg kick checking karate stance McGregor. Yeah, dude, a lot of people made a big stink about McGregor's stance switch. It was a little different in his fight against Poirier, but I don't think it was that big of a deal that people were making out of it. And Conor's used that stance before. He used it against Eddie Alvarez. He used it a bunch of times. So, yeah. Vicente Luque will be the welterweight GOAT. Yeah, I think whiskey made Conor old. I'm pretty sure Wiley is pronounced Whaley. Yeah, you're probably right. And last but not least, Rose gave Paige a jiu-jitsu masterclass a few years ago. Yeah, Paige is a good grappler. Paige is she's a good scrappy fighter, man. She's got okay striking and she's got okay grappling. And Rose made her look very okay. Maybe even worse. So yeah, that fight's going to be really interesting. Guys, that just about does it for the live chat. I really appreciate you guys joining this impromptu chat here. I know Wednesdays, a lot of people are working, doing other things. I kind of just randomly did it. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to chat with me. And we got some more fights coming up this weekend that I'm sure we'll talk about. Me and Al will do a podcast about that whenever we have the time. Al is one of those people that's working today. I am going to go to work in about 45 minutes myself. So that pretty much does it. I'm going to post a new link to the Discord server into this description. I just got to edit it. So I apologize for the old link. I got to make sure it's like an infinite link so you guys can always join it. We do fight picking contests on the Discord. We have a lot of fun chats. We post memes about MMA and just shoot the shit about whatever. And when the fights are live, we all watch the fights live together on the Discord, so it's a lot of fun. So join the Discord. We're doing some stuff on that. And the Patreon, guys. I'm putting some more stuff up on the Patreon. I'm going to put a narrated sparring session between me and Al. We did some MMA sparring about a week and a half ago where we beat the crap out of each other, so you might enjoy watching that. Only $1 to get early access to that. And it really helps out the channel a lot. That pretty much does it. I love you all. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful Wednesday. Adios.